Right, man. Well, I am really, really looking forward to this one. A heavyweight legend in the state of Utah, Ben Moa, making the walk in his bare knuckle FC debut this Saturday night live from the Maverick Center. Ben Moa, how are you, man? It's great to talk to you.
Yeah, it's nice to talk to you as well.
I did want to kick things off and just kind of ask you because Jason Laporte kind of talked about it at the show a couple of weeks ago, talking about, you had retired, but then everyone hears, oh, Ben Moa is coming back for bare knuckle. What was this process like to go from the fight in January, retirement over the last 11 months, and then to come back at the Maverick Center for this big time opportunity?
So, my sons play football during the. So I got two sons that play college football, and then I have one that's in high school, and I don't fight during their football seasons. So I had that time off. Like after January, my hand was broke, so I had to stop anyway, and their football started. So I was like, my I told my wife I was retiring from MMA, and then like literally, uh, the only week that they don't have football is December 2nd. And I was like, wow, this is crazy. And then all of a sudden Nate Shook, the matchmaker for Bare Knuckle, calls me and says, hey man, we heard you went through that process. And then next thing you know, I asked my wife and she was very adamant about me not fighting, but um I'm just glad she let me do it.
So I did kind of want to ask you a little bit about the magnitude of this, right? I mean, you fought for Bellator before, but you just talked to me right before we turned on the cameras, and you were saying that you had some big TV interviews and things like that. What's it like being under this big umbrella that is BKFC?
I mean, it's huge, man. I've been doing interviews, and they're so like, it's crazy that they're so professional. Like they they have PR people. They have I interviewed with the guy from New York this morning, and then they had me on TV. They wrote a story. They wrote two stories about me. It's just it's been quick and fast, and um, that it always comes back to like they say, oh man, this is a lot of pressure fighting in front of all your people. But I mean, I actually don't shy away from pressure. I actually like pressure, and it doesn't bother me much. I have a lot of people coming to this fight, so I'm probably somewhere in the 400 or 500 range. So I'll have a lot of people there. So I like the pressure. I like the build up. Um, I like the roar of the crowd. I mean, I really enjoy all that stuff. So.
Talking about the pressures and things like that, I kind of want to talk to you about your extensive athletic career because obviously you've been under the lights in a lot of different opportunities. What's the athletic career of Ben Moa been like from childhood up until now, making the walk for BKFC?
Okay, um, it really hasn't been an athletic upbringing from my childhood. So essentially, I grew up in gangs and drugs in Southern California. When I was 12 years old, I came up here for a family reunion and I got myself locked up over here. So I got locked up from 12 till I was 16 in Mill Creek Youth Center in Ogden, and that's why I'm here in Ogden. So, so it wasn't really an athletic background. It was a fighting background. It was a fighting. It was and I think that's why Bare Knuckles writing all these stories about me because they're like, oh man, that's a crazy story. You should write a book about it. But yeah, um, a lot of fighting, a lot of drugs, a lot of substance abuse, a lot of crazy stuff. Um, but I didn't start playing football or doing anything with athletics until I got released from Mill Creek Youth Center, and I lived with my uncle Mace, who was a counselor at Mill Creek Youth Center. He quit Mill Creek Youth Center, took me in as a foster kid, and that's when I started playing sports, and that's when everyone found out that that I was a good athlete, and uh, you know, 5 years out of lockup, I was sitting in the NFL with the pocket full of money, so it was kind of crazy.
What was that like competing in the NFL? Just in general. I mean, you don't get the opportunity to talk to someone who has had those types of opportunities every day.
Yeah, so you literally have to get unstarstruck to kind of realize, hey, dude, I'm here with these guys, and I'm one of them now. But it's like you're walking around. I played with Junior Seau. I played with Zach Thomas. I played with Ricky Williams, and they're just like people that have been playing the game, and they've done so many cool things. It's like you almost get so starstruck that you're just sitting there like a fan, and you're like, yeah, but you're a player. So it's kind of cool that way. But on the other side of things, it's like it's so much temptation that it's like almost overwhelming. It's like anything you could fathom up in your mind as a temptation. It's sitting on your front porch. And I don't think I was ready because I was 5 years out of lockup. I don't think I was ready for it, and I think that's why it was taken from me, my opportunities, because I wasn't ready for all the stuff it came with. Wasn't mentally ready for it.
I did want to ask you a little bit about the fighting career, bring it back over into that from football into fighting. Did you do any training or anything like that? Or were you just kind of consistently fighting at the Mill Creek Youth Center? You kind of talked about just getting prepped and primed almost during that time.
Yeah, no training, just fighting. That's just what you do in those kind of situations. That's how you deal with your problems. You fight, and a lot of fighting. No like specific fight training or anything, but we did train for like speed and agility stuff. And luckily, when I was in there, there was a lot of counselors that were Polynesian, like myself, and they kind of taught me what the real, like, how you're really supposed to be acting, and what you're supposed to be, how you're supposed to be conducting yourself as a someone in the community. So I learned a lot. I learned a lot from those men in the youth center. So
Was there a fight or a moment in the youth center? You said that a lot of fights happen. Was there a moment that you went, oh shoot, I got some bombs in my hands?
almost almost I mean, I hate to say it, but almost every time I fought, I drop people. I hate to say, I'm not just cocky, dude. Like, I mess around a lot. Like, Zach and them know that, but I I mean I dropped so many people. Like, it was crazy. And
Yeah.
I knew as soon as people knew like I could fight. I just kind of naturally, that's my natural thing to do. I like it.
Yeah. Of all the big names, Ben, from Kent Mafaleo, Tony Lopez, Eric Iman, I mean, some huge heavyweight names that you have faced opposite. Who hits the hardest out of all of those slew of guys that you have faced over the years?
I mean, I haven't been hit in the face by any of them, but um, Tony Lopez kicked me in the back of the ear and knocked me out in the third round. So, I mean, I had to give it to Tony because he's the only really one that hit me in the head. Can't hit me with the uppercut when we were younger. That was nice. It was beautiful. Um, that's about. I mean, no one else has really hit me. Can't hit hard though. We went and trained with him up at Agima, getting ready for this fight, and he hit me with just a little touch body shot, and it was a nice one underneath my rib.
All right, guys, before we keep going, we got to talk a little bit about our podcast sponsor, Water and Wellness. Now, you've heard us talk about water and wellness before, but I got to tell you, this is the best water I have ever had in my entire life. Alkaline, filtered, some of the tastiest stuff you'll ever have. I crave it like it's a cheap meal in itself, but it is so good for you. And they're stationed right here in Salt Lake City. So go ahead, head over to Water and Wellness for the best water you have ever had in your life. Change your water, change your life. Let's get back to the podcast. I do want to ask you, you are nearing the end of this fight career, it seems like. I mean, you've already seemed to close the door on the MMA side of things. Obviously, this incredible opportunity comes up, and so you're going to take it. But what do you make of the Utah MMA scene? What do you make of Kent Mafaleo and so many others that are kind of carrying the torch and moving the sport in the right direction?
I think Utah has a lot of great fighters. I mean, you look at the PFL guys. I mean, in the last couple of years, we put a lot of Utah people in there, and then the Katniss girls. She's pretty fit. She's famous and she's doing a really good job for the women's scene. And I mean, the boys are representing. I mean, the only thing you can do is just keep fighting top tier people, and I think Fierce has done a great job bringing in other talent to fight Utah talent, because other people are just cycling through Utah guys. And I told Zach earlier, and I was like, man, I'm not gonna fight anybody from Utah. It doesn't make sense. Like, there's so many people out there. Just bring some people in to let us fight them. And you know, I think Fierce has done a great job lining up good fights for good people, and in the area, and then uh making it. They're starting to make a name for themselves, for people like, okay, I can't go fight here, Bellator, or PFL, but Fierce is doing a great job, and they filter a lot of those guys that go up into there. So I'll go over there and see if I can win a Fierce belt, and then that'll give me some notoriety.
Yeah, I did want to ask you. I was really looking forward to interviewing you, and specifically why is because you have, in my opinion, the greatest walkout in the state of Utah. Your walkout song, the way you come out. I just wanted to ask you, what was kind of the genesis? What was the idea behind walking out to really, really the energy that you bring? It just feels different than any other fighter that makes the walk typically for Fierce.
So I mean, it didn't really. I really planned that to just be like, oh man, I'm gonna just come out like tough, like I'm mad, and then for some reason it just takes over my body, like, and I just turn into a stripper. It's weird. I just turn. I love dancing. I'm generally silly in nature, so when I just hear the music and I see the people, and I want to be tough, and I want to be mean and make a mean face, but I just can't. It just. I'm kind of like my 16-year-old son. I just When the music hits, it's just whatever happens, happens. Like, I don't know. It's nothing planned. It's not like rehearsed what I'm gonna do. I just feel, just let the energy run through my body.
Are you a fan of Kevin Gates, and why the
I,
song really, really versus any other song?
yes, I'm a fan of Kevin Gates. He's very lyrically like inclined. I mean, that song speaks to me because at the beginning he says, "My daughter's gonna love this one," and I only have one daughter, and I told her that I would, hold on, sorry. Yeah, I told her that I would come out to that song. Uh, really, really is kind of speaks to me, because it's like, okay, like some people say they're about that life, but I'm really about that life. Like, I'm really, I really do this. So for me, it kind of gets me in the right state of mind to be out there and to battle.
Last couple questions from me. Number one is, what gets you excited about going from MMA to bare knuckle?
Um, just like it's like the ultimate man to do. Bare knuckles. Sorry, I'm sorry for, but like, it's the ultimate. Like, there's no gloves, there's no wrestling, there's no takedown, there's a little tiny clinch deal that you could do one hand, but after 3 seconds, it's breaking it up. It's like the ultimate, like, and I'm into like watching like all the Viking Valhalla stuff. So I'm like, I'm pumped about this. It's like, man, I really think it's a very, very pure sport. You know.
I kind of asked you this at the top of the podcast, but I do kind of just want to ask you specifically, what was your reaction? I talked about the process, but what was your specific reaction when you got that call? Were you stoked? Are you a fan of BKFC? What was the reaction like for you personally?
So the reaction for me was like, it was a dream. Like, this is like one of my things. Like, I wanted to fight for the UFC. I wanted to fight for Bill or Bellator, one of those two. I wanted to I wanted to be a champion. And I mean, when I started seeing bare knuckle, I was like, man, I want to do that, or I want to be the champion of bare knuckle. And then after I beat Tony Lopez's ass for 3 rounds, and then he knocked me out. And then the 2 weeks after that fight, he went and won the bare knuckle fight, and I'm like, he can't even hit me one time with his So I was like, man, I could be the bare knuckle champ. So then I was like, man, I could be the bare knuckle champ. If Tony's the bare knuckle champ, he didn't even touch my face with his hands. Hands slow. But so I kind of was like, man, I want to go see, and I do want to fight in Abu Dhabi, and they do that. They fight in Abu Dhabi. So I'm like a dream big guy, and I'm like a law of attraction guy. And for some reason, I said I want to fight bare knuckle, and then 2 weeks after that, the matchmaker called me. So I'm a, I man, I dream big, and I don't like put a lot of limits on myself. So I just kind of dream big and then start chasing dreams. And if I catch them, then I make new dreams.
So here is another question for me then to follow that up. Is this going to be your last fight? Or if you do get the win, and what we are expecting is that when you do get the win, are you going to try to, petition to go over to Abu Dhabi and fulfill that dream as well? What's the plan for you?
Man, I don't know, man. I just play it by ear, and whatever my wife says I could do, I'll do. Like I literally love fighting. So if she lets me fight, there's people fighting bare knuckle that are like 55. I'm like, bro, I'm young. So I don't know. We'll see what happens, man. I mean, I'm not overlooking Bridger. He, he's a tough fighter. He's Native. I think he's Native American, and fighting Native Americans and fighting Mexicans is very hard because they're very tough. And he's from Montana, so and his brother Leo fights. So I know he's gonna be tough. I know he's gonna be a dog. So I'm not looking past him at all. So
Well, he loves fighting. We love watching him fight. And December 2nd, this Saturday night, we get to watch it alongside the rest of the world. Utah's own Ben Moa. Thank you so much for the time. We can't wait to see you perform on Saturday night.
thanks, brother.